Okay, so a couple things. Oh, I need to tab back over. One sec. Okay, so there we go. You can still see this right here, right?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, so a couple things that I want to cover that I always go over before anything else. There's a couple like tank fundamental shit that I want to go over. Before I do that, are there any specific questions that you have? Anything that you want to know while I'm in here that I can add to the list?
Um, Not that I can think of right now. I definitely do, but it's gonna be more situational, I think.
Okay. So there's a couple things that I always cover with tank players specifically, and it's like game fundamental stuff. I turn my sound down real quick too. I'm assuming you can't hear any of this.
Nope.
Okay, so there's a few fundamentals that I always cover with people. The first one is to improve. The reason the better players are better is because they're making less mistakes or less errors. And that sounds like a really stupid, like obvious thing. It's just the fact that they're making less or fewer errors than you are or than I am. So pro players, for example, are making maybe 2 mistakes in the span of a minute, and we're probably making 10 in that same time span. And also, in addition to that, they're making the correct decision a lot more often. So decision making is super, super important, especially for tank players and specifically for main tank, but it applies to off tank as well. So if you're in a situation and you have one of 4 options, pretty much only one of those is going to be an actual win condition. The other 3 may be good, but you're not going to get as much value out of it. In regards to that, too, Overwatch is a resource game, and it's about value. So, correct decision means that you're getting more value out of that decision than one of the other options. I'll touch a little bit more on that, but value is kind of like a consistent concept that's going to show up pretty much everywhere. Basically, any action that you take has a certain amount of value associated with it, either positive or negative. Let's say that I am playing Zarya and I hit a bubble on my Ana who's getting dove by a Genji with 4 health and she gets saved. That's huge positive value for that cooldown. Versus if I just press it on my Rhino standing and choke, nobody shoots him, I get no energy, and I waste the cooldown, and then my Ana still gets fucked because I didn't use that correctly, that's negative value. It's not good. So there's 3 portions of this that everything feeds into, right? There's 3 like fundamental parts of what makes a player good. It's game sense, it's positioning, and it's mechanics. Mechanics you can just train just by playing more or doing aim training, stuff like that. That one is not something we usually focus on because you can improve that on your own. Game sense you acquire by playing the game more than anything else. You don't really get it anywhere else. You have to either play or learn or watch a lot of the game in order to understand what's happening with it. Obviously, I mean, you've been watching a lot of Owl and stuff like that. There's shit that happens in there that just doesn't make any sense until you go back and watch it later. There's
Yeah.
one thing specifically I'll touch on later with that as well. Positioning, though, is something you can very easily improve, and that's usually the main skill gap between like low elo and like mid elo players. It's because you're either in a bad position to start with, or you rotate to a bad position, or you stay in the wrong spot too long. That's something that I see all the time, and it's usually the biggest identifier of like where a person actually is SR wise. Their mechanics might be crazy, they might be cracked, but if they're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, they're gonna lose the game.
Yeah, I
And that,
think positioning is my weakest of those 3.
yeah, that I'm gonna touch on really, really heavily because that's something that you need to learn good habits on early before you start getting into bad habits, and then you're losing the games because of it.
Yeah.
Um, Positioning is also just intrinsically tied to resource management because Overwatch is a resource game, right? So health is a resource, cooldowns are a resource, your armor that you have is a resource, space is a resource, time, all of that. You're playing to maximize the resources you have and drain as many of the enemies as you can. That's why sometimes the right play isn't necessarily just to go in and click 6 heads. It might be to play a little bit more passively in order to stall out or eat an ability that would otherwise lose you the team fight. And then the last subject on that for like general overview stuff is that the ability for team play is the biggest skill gap between below Masters and Masters Plus. Once you start getting into like mid Masters, teamwork actually matters. You cannot win the game if you're just solo carrying. So that's something that off tank specifically is very, very important at, is the teamwork and the peel and everything else associated with that. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Any questions on that before I keep going down my list?
No, I mean that all makes sense. It's all
Yeah.
registered.
It's all stuff that I'll touch on, so just make sure we get like an idea of what's happening with it.
Yep.
And then, so as far as tanking, so like what actually is a tank and what do the tanks do? There's three main jobs that they all have, and this is something I tell everyone, okay? Tanks create space, so they are involved with space, period. Either creating space, controlling it, or denying space to enemies. One of those three things you're going to be doing pretty much at any point, whether or not you realize it. Doesn't matter if you're intentionally doing it, doesn't matter if you're accidentally doing it, that's what you're doing. Because you have your health pool, you have your armor a lot of the times, or you just have a huge hitbox you can stand in front of your teammates, you control that space. There's a little bit more nitpicky stuff with that we'll get into later. Your second job is to enable your teammates, because you can't win the game by just playing D.Va or playing Zarya or playing Ryan. You have to enable your DPS to go in and click heads, or to go in, like a Doomfist for example, if I'm playing Zarya. My main job is to enable him to get in, get a kill, and get out without feeding. So that's what you do besides taking spaces, you enable them to do their jobs. You enable your supports to stay alive by using your matrix, using bubble, or using hook, whatever you have. And on top of that too, that feeds into the third one, which is peel. Peel's probably the single most important out of the three. They're all kind of the same priority though. But peel is so important. It's something that I see a lot of low elo players not doing at all. Because if your supports live, you live. If your supports get fucked on, it doesn't matter if you kill 4 people. You don't have supports, you're gonna die, the other team has the advantage, you lose. With that being said, tank is the easiest role to carry on, is what I'm going to say. It has the most impact on the game and the actual game flow itself, but it feels the least impactful and it can be really hard to tell when you're doing a good job. Specifically with main tank, like Ryan specifically, it can be really hard to tell when you're actually doing a good job because there are not a lot of external factors. If I go in and I pick Widow and I click 3 heads and we win, I get that little ding sound, I kill people, and we win because of that. That's obvious, right? But Ryan has so much resource and health management with his shield and with his armor and his own health pool, his ability usage, his positioning, everything like that. You can be doing the right thing and still lose because either your teammates are good enough to help you or the enemy team's just better. And that's the incredibly frustrating part about learning tank and getting good at it. That's what I always try to tell people is like you will have times when you do the right decision, you literally cannot do more. You cannot carry hard enough. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes it's just GG. Every game is pretty much a coin flip, to be honest. You're going to win 30% no matter what, you're going to lose 30% no matter what. The remainder third is where you can actually win.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about specifically D.Va, because I think the VOD's about D.Va, right?
Yep.
Cool. So every tank has an identity in what they do. I'm a huge Zarya player, obviously. So for me, like Zarya is an enforcer, right? She plays really well with Ryan, who aggressively takes space and creates it. Zarya is a space enforcer. She doesn't really do much besides that. She just exists and takes over that space and kills the things that are threatening your backline. D.Va's a little bit different. She can do pretty much anything, right? So D.Va, in my opinion, is mainly a disruptor. Like that's what she does best. That's what she's really good at. She can disrupt enemy flanks, she can disrupt the enemy front line, she can get in there and get in a weird position in order to allow your squishies to walk across a choke or something and not die. That's what she does best. She's also an enabler and a protector, which that's just really peel concept. She's the single best peel tank in the game besides Zarya. There's no questioning that she is the best.
Quick clarification for
yeah.
terms. So with peel, are you talking about like positional peeling, like diverting attention, like from the enemy and from yourself, like?
So it can be,
what does that look like?
but specifically peel is more of the fact of when you're protecting like a squishy or something like that. So if I am playing D.Va and this is my Ana down here, and I'm over here fighting a monkey or something, and I turn around and I see this Genji is on my Ana. Dropping down here, matrixing, helping, and body blocking that damage, that's peel. Peel is just responding to a threat to your teammates and either eliminating that threat or just getting it out of the way or making it less of a potential threat, basically.
Okay, noticing, peeling off, and addressing.
Yeah. D.Va's so good at that because her boosters are up every 4 seconds, she's got defense matrix, she's got so much HP, she can just stand there and take damage all day long. Zarya's second best, obviously, because of bubbles, and she just does so much damage. She can go 1v1 any DPS. But let's say you are in that position. This is your Zen or your Ana or whatever. They're getting dove by a Genji. You're There's two ways you can do this. You can enable your teammates by killing the entire enemy team, or you can enable them by keeping your own teammates alive. Peel is the spot of keeping them alive.
Yeah.
And with that too, a lot of, like I was talking about how tanking can be really hard to tell when you're doing things right, when you're doing things wrong. You can do your job right just by being in the right place at the right time. Like, you just can exist in a certain area and be doing your job. And that's a really hard concept for people to grasp a lot of the time, especially when you're trying to learn positioning. But let's say first point Gibraltar, and you're playing on defense, right?
Yep.
Just by existing on that high ground they have up there, and denying any kind of dive or denying the flank on the stairs, just being there, you're doing your job correctly.
Enabling support to
Yeah,
support the DPS, enabling DPS that, you know,
just
get the 3D
being
angles.
a giant squishy meat shield. That's what
Yep.
you're great at, yeah. Just a couple things D.Va specific I want to touch on. Her fallout starts at 10 meters, which is right here. So if you're any further than this away from the enemy, which is why I had this giant ass crosshair on D.Va, because I can see like the shotgun spread. If you're
Yep.
further than this, you're losing damage. So if I'm up here and I'm left clicking on his head, he's dead in half a second. Whereas if I'm back here, I'm immediately losing damage and I can't do as much. So you
Yeah,
generally want to play within this range. And coincidentally, if you're playing just on the edge of this, you're going to stay out of range of things like flash. You're barely outside of it, or you can at least eat it or have time to react to it. Or things like Tracer. Her blink is 7 meters. It might be 8. If she's right here and she blinks this way, you're in range to chase her to still kill her. Basically, is my point.
Yeah.
Her burst damage combo. So, like I was talking about yesterday, if you melee at the end of your boosters, 1, it gets the melee damage, which is 30. 2, it's going to knock them back a little bit and disrupt whatever they're trying to do. And 3, it adds to your combo. So your combo is to chase a squishy down and use your E and use your left click. Now you can burst them down extremely quickly, but typically, like let's say that you're going to dive on, this is a McCree or something, I'm going to go boop him away, use my E and left click him down, he's dead immediately. You're going to throw a Matrix in there typically for things like an Ana, where I would come in and start shooting her, and when she goes to sleep or go for the nade, then I throw my Matrix out, then I use the missiles to confirm the kill. Missiles do like 130, I think, if you land all of them, but usually you're going to get like 70 out of it. So boosters are 10 damage, melee is 30. You're doing 40 damage just by being there and being in their face. If combine that with the fact that you're right up close and you have all the shotgun spread, and that's your main burst combo. And typically, you want to save your Matrix when you are going to be diving a target to burst down until after you start fighting. It gives them time to react and throw out the flash or throw out the sleep or whatever, and you have time to eat that without losing the fight, without not being able to confirm the kill.
Got it.
One other thing with D.Va, she fits into basically any team comp, except really with, she does not really agree with Hog, but pretty much any other situation. That's why she's been in basically every meta. She was in triple tank meta, she was in dive meta, she was in goats, she was like super important in goats. She's been in the Rhine Brawl meta, which is Rhine D.Va. She's been in double off tank meta. She's very versatile, and there's a lot of situations you can use her in. So honestly, it's not really something where you can make a bad pick by playing her, as long as you're not hinting. And the last thing specifically with the hero I want to touch on before we get into it is Matrix usage. So Matrix is the biggest skill gap between, like let's say myself and a pro player. I'm not very good at D.Va, I don't play her very much. But their actual ability usage with Matrix is so much better than anything we can do. So her Matrix lasts for technically 3 seconds if you're holding in full, and takes 8 seconds to recharge. I think it's like 7.2 or something, it's really close. Anytime you use it, you immediately get the cooldown for the second, even if you just flash it like this. So the higher and higher you get, the better and better players you play against, like Tracers or Zaryas or whatnot, they're going to be looking for you to flash this because they know they have a second and a half window where they can use abilities. So being good at not necessarily proactively using it, but paying attention to situations, reading when you can and cannot use Matrix, and then saving it for situations when you need it is the most important thing. I don't know if you've seen this clip of it was Shanghai Dragons and Shock in the finals last year on
I
Horizon.
did watch it.
Okay, so this was in end of 2019. Shock and Dragons played on Horizon, and there's this really, really good play where I think it's Coma is the Mercy and Ding's Farah. I'll have to find the clip later. But basically, what happens is on Horizon, Shock go under. Let's see if I can make this work.
Thank you.
Shock go under. Okay, so if we're looking at Horizon top down, and this is the spawn, and this is point A here. This is the wall, the balcony that comes up and over. This is the main wall of the point, and this is the high ground if you're facing from defender's side.
Yep.
Shock come out through their spawn, they go through the mini room down here, and they go under this balcony. Choyobin is their off tank at the time, so he's playing D.Va. He turns and uses all his Matrix up here on Ding's Farah, who's pocketed, and doesn't have it for the next like 6 seconds. So Ding drops in, immediately barrages with his Mercy pocket and kills 3 of them, and they win. It's the biggest example of like cooldown mistiming and cooldown usage that I have, and also it's a really, really cool clip because Coma actually body blocks the barrage. I'll pull it up later. It's really, really neat. But just micro plays like that, like knowing when you can use your abilities, when you can't do stuff, or especially Coma's body block is really good. That is like what separates good players from great players, is just knowing when you can and can't do things.
Yeah.
So, questions on that?
All makes sense.
Cool. This is the one I want.
Alright, I will preface, the first point's a fucking mess. It's bad.
Oh, and what elo was this before I get into it?
2000.
Okay. I'm gonna drink some
I
water
think
real
this
quick.
was like my second to last placement.
Statistically speaking, I usually get most of my team back alive.
I'm drinking some water real
So you
quick.
can try and see if I can see anything. I figure if they see me, they can't go back to spawn. Fix it that fast. So.
Something I'll touch on later, but I don't know if it's super important right now, is once you start getting more comfortable with like the actual playstyle of each tank, you need to start looking at like team composition, and not necessarily like just the comp itself, but like interplay between you and other heroes, especially when you're playing a peel heavy hero like D.Va. So for this situation, since you have like a BAP or whatever, I'd be looking to see who your supports are, whether or not they need your help, and then also with your DPS, whether or not they're going to need you to help them engage on anything. If you're playing a more dive-centric comp, your role completely changes. But typically if you're playing a Ryan D.Va brawl like this, you have one of 2 options, and this is pretty much standard for any comp that isn't dive. You can either play aggressively, and you can go off-angle, let your Ryan take main choke, go off-angle with the DPS and go kill their backline and win, or you can peel or babysit your DPS or babysit your supports, make sure that they live so that your Ryan can go in and kill things, and then you win that way. Either playstyle is acceptable, either one's decently pretty good. It's just a matter of whatever you're more comfortable with, and it is situational. If you notice that like your Ana's getting absolutely ganked by their other DPS, then you might play them a little bit more passively, a little bit more defensively. In this situation, since they do have like a Zarya and their DPS are pretty easy for the 1v1, I would probably be more aggressive in the situation. I'm gonna let it play out and see what you do though.
I can tell you pretty much everything else.
So before I let this fight play out, because you're already down one, you're probably going to lose this, there's 2 things that I'm noticing right off the bat. One is your Matrix usage is all over the place, and 2, we're not taking like the positioning that we should be taking. I'm going to cover positioning pretty, if you want to learn that, I'm going to cover it pretty hard in this. I'm not going to micro you too hard on stuff because you can learn certain things just with time. But as far as like macro gameplay goes, like positioning and like adapting to game sense, that is something we can teach really easily.
I've noticed with my Matrix, I'll see a fire strike coming from, let's just say 20 meters away, and so I'll go ahead and pop the defense, the Matrix, waiting for it when I should really just wait for it to get closer before I pop it up.
Well, that is good though. You should always be eating fire strikes, especially in the Ryan v Ryan matchup, because you're gonna have shatter faster than he is. Especially with them playing Ryan Zarya Brawl. Once she gets energy, she's gonna farm you, and she's gonna farm this Ryan if she's good. So it's definitely very important to do that. But we're using Matrix for a lot of just chip damage and poke damage, and not necessarily that's super important. There are abilities and there are certain things that you have to eat, okay? Ononate is one of them, Sleep is one of them, High Noon bullets are one of them, Grav is one you can try to eat, Pulse is super important. Doomfist follow-up shots, when he hits an E-shift combo on one of your squishies, that's going to save them with like 30 health and it would be just enough for them to survive. Things of that nature, that's what you need to be saving Matrix for. Because again, if you are just spamming it and you don't have it and you have to wait for it to regen, then you've got the cooldown. You can't use it you can't use it the way you need to. In this situation, when you see this Ana sitting up here, I would have pushed that. I would have probably gone over and flown up top here. But you should be sitting ideally right here if there's not like a DPS sitting here. If there is a DPS in here in cave, you just kind of spam them out. You can test them. You take the space up here. This is a really important concept that I'm going to have to explain at some point with a different map. Off-angling is pretty much what you do as an off-tank. You kind of play off of your main tank. You let them do their thing, you let them roam, and you support them up to a certain point. If I'm playing Zarya, for example, I'm already here. I bubble my Ryan, I get my energy, I get him the damage reduction that he needs, and I've done my job at that point. At that point, I'm free to go kill their backline. The D.Va's pretty similar. They play pretty much in the same range because of how close she is and because she has a shotgun weapon. So I'd be standing here or over here. If you're over here, you have access to the backline, access to the DPS. You can kind of use your E, spam them out. You can get the damage. You can keep them occupied, or you can win the front line. You can play right here and you spam this Ryan from the side. If this Ryan is, right here and he's got his shield facing up and he can't do anything about it, there's not much he can do besides get shot in the side. He's got to play the Ryan 1v1, he's got to face off against your guy, he's got to watch for the Kree. He just has to get tickled to death. There's nothing he can do about it, basically. His armor, too, gets reduction against shotguns, so you're not going to do a whole lot to him. But again, it's about all resource game, right? You don't have to reload, you don't have to really do anything with your weapons, you can just sit here and spam chip damage for free. Same concept with trying to spy check for Sombra or for denying mercy heals. Even if you can't necessarily get in and do all the damage to confirm the kill, you can make the enemy team put a lot of resources into it. If you're standing here pumping damage into these two tanks, the Rana's got to put more into them, she's got to pay more attention to the tanks, and so your DPS can go and flank and kill her or whatever they have to do. But yeah, on this point though, definitely, if the other team is going to play right here, I would go up into this high ground, or you can also play over here on the side of cave. If they do happen to have like a Zen chilling over here or something like that, it's an easy kill for you. You drop on him, you press E, you left click, he's dead. Speaking of which, too, you can use E to farm at long range, but when you're actually in engages, you want to be saving that to burst down a squishy target or whatever you have to do.
Okay.
But this is not where you want to be, because if we're just standing here and we're playing stand and choke and shoot the red things, you're just going to take a shitload of damage. Zarya's going to be charged the entire game. She's going to farm your mech, and you're going to have Grav on cooldown. So that Zarya should 100% die, but that's not your problem. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it's good that you held off on using the Matrix until he started to wake up. If they have a lot of tickle spam damage, if he's not going to get one shot or something, I would just sit on him, wait for a second, wait until he wakes up, and then Matrix so he's not dying. But if he gets damaged to wake up, he wakes up instantly as opposed to having to wait the whole duration. But yeah, this is what I mean though. They've already built Nano, and he's going to have Shatter immediately if he doesn't already. And we just kind of stood here and choke and not really gotten a whole lot done, because this is not really where you want to be playing. At this point, you should have disengaged a while ago once your Ryan backed up.
Yeah. Where I didn't see all of them outside the tunnel, so I was like,
yeah.
maybe I can take this, turn around, and Sorry, right there.
Oh, nice right click. Something that's a really important concept is just like 180ing and just paying attention to where what's happening to your support specifically. You got to keep track of your teammates pretty much at any time if you can.
That's something I can't say with certainty I do struggle with.
This is a good matrix on that McCree right there. When you're trying to save him from getting murdered, I would have stepped in front of him to body block for it and also broken that turret, but that's something you can work on.
I think I did that in about a sec.
As far as, yeah, like paying attention and being aware of your teammates, that's something that it's really easy to teach. It becomes a habit very, very quickly. Same with like ult tracking. I'm always turning around looking at where people are and trying to figure out where the enemy team is too. If you don't see somebody, eventually when you have enough game sense, you're going to know where they are, at least where they should be, and you can play off of that. Especially if you're playing against like a Widow or something, and you know if you peek a corner you're dead in 2 seconds. Knowing where they should be helps you make smarter decisions with your positioning, but especially paying attention where your teammates and where your supports are, especially if you got like an Ana, right? She can't heal you if you're not an LOS. So look for her, pay attention to where she's playing, stay within her range, that way she can help you and you can help her. But that's something you can learn very easily, you don't have to do a whole lot with it. And honestly, here's something I would say too, like, don't like make a sticky note or something, but like, be asking yourself when you're in game, like intentionally try to make decisions. Say, where's my Ana, where's my whoever, where are they, what's happening, what's going on with them. And if you force yourself to consciously think about it, it's becoming a habit over time. This is a really good spot right here. This is what I want you to do like way at the beginning of the game. But, okay, so good intention, bad execution, you dropped off and you die for it, you're gonna get absolutely farmed right here. But that's a good idea. That's what you should have done, but you want to stick on that high ground if you can. Yeah, off-tanks have the ability to just basically go wherever you want to. High ground is super, super important. There's a couple things we'll talk about later with map, or what some people call lane control, with how you actually hold different portions of the map. You have high ground, you have flank routes, and then you have like your main, you know, default strip that everybody goes down. You want to be creating off angles as much as you can as a secondary tank, which doesn't mean you need to be flanking in the backline, just means you need to be playing at a different angle from where your Reinhardt is, so you're not just standing here holding W and mouse 1 in main choke like this. Also, I think you're down 2 right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in this.
I honestly, at this point, I was thinking about getting full held on this point.
Yeah, no, I get you, I get you. So here's something that's really hard for people to understand and like learn is grouping for 6. If you can, I would call for your teammates to get all 6, because 5v6 you're going to lose that, especially if you're trying to play, you know, attack like this. When you can't get the momentum rolling, you don't have ult economy. Same concept is, people have a really hard time with this sometimes, where they're like, oh, well, my team won't group up, or the enemy team is staggering or whatnot. If you can't fix it, then become part of the problem, basically. If your teammates are going to go in there and stagger, go with them and do whatever you can to enable them and help them. And same deal if the enemy team is going in 1v1, punish that. Like if they're not playing smart enough to not go in 5v6, then you punish that and you win. It's all about resources.
Didn't communicate much for like the first half of the first game.
I'll turn this down a little bit.
But after that, we were pretty communicative all the way to the end.
Yeah, yeah. It's something you'll get with time. Yeah, this is good. Go force him off of there. This is what I mean about space control, right? So if you're
Taking
here,
high ground,
yeah,
them off, they can't take it.
you've got your echo with here, and you're holding this. This is something, I'm just going to cover this before I go into it too much. There's a thing called lane control, right, or map control, in this situation. So you have, this one's pretty straightforward. Let me see if I can get my thing up on here. There we go. Okay, so this is what's called map control. You have 3 lanes on this map, okay? You have main, which is like your default. Everybody's going to go this route, and the tanks are going to walk down here. You have this flank route right here that goes to the high ground, and you have this flank route right here that goes to the low ground and to the mega room down here. Your Ryan is your main tank. He's going to be controlling this general part of the map. So your job is to take one of these two, either one, or this one, because this is part of the same route.
Yeah.
So you can either sit here and you can AFK on cart with your Reinhardt and push another 5 meters and cover 1/3 of the map, or you can take this position right here where you are, or take over here on the bridge, tickle down in this spawn, or you can go up on here and control this area. And now you're covering 2/3 of the map. And that means that their DPS can't exist here. This is your space, you have the control, they can't come up here. They can still go this way. That's fine. You're taking away an entire option that they have, and this is out of your control. But what you can directly control, you should enforce this. This is what Zarya does really well, so why I say she's an enforcer, right? So what she does is, if I'm playing Zarya and I'm here, this is my space, you cannot take this. You do not have the ability to take this area without me killing you. And that's the same thing that you do, because you do so much burst damage at close range. If they come into here, they do not have the right to be in your space. You kill them, and the fight's won because you're 6v5 immediately. Or they try and go for a flank over here. You cut that off, you shoot them, you force them out. Even if they don't die, let's say it's a Tracer and you force recall and she's got to go reset and wait 10 seconds before she can go back in. You've just gained a huge amount of value because this flank route is no longer open. So lane control like this is something that's really hard for people to understand, but you gotta kind of think about each route that you have on the map. Junkertown first is a really good example of this too, I can cover at some point. But this is where you should be at all times pretty much. This is a really good spot for you to be in, and hopefully you don't leave here.
I think I'll lay there. Mentally I'm thinking I don't do much damage from range.
Yeah.
I'm more useful if I get into it.
And you are, but you don't want to be doing it from here. You want to be doing it from right here.
Up there.
Because look what happened. Now there's Zarya and their Lucia up here, and they're going to have this control, and she's just going to beam your back line. Your Ana's right here in the open, she's probably dead.
Yeah. Like, I get the concepts, but I put the concepts into practice for like a half second. And then
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, like I said, it's something you can build on. I would have been saying a little bit there. They were all anti. I would have probably been matrixing that, but it's fine. But
at this point,
is that an intentional flick away to keep from feeding her?
yes.
Okay, so that's good. It's really good, except in this situation where she's 1v1, she doesn't have support like this. Just kill her. The bubble has 200 HP, you'll burst it in half a second, and she'll be dead immediately. Just click on her head. Zarya at high charge is a huge threat. She should not be allowed to live. You still cap out, but yeah. Yeah, and honestly, at that point, once she has energy, it doesn't really matter. Just shoot the bubble. This is something that's really, it's like a weird discrepancy, right? At low elo, people don't either don't know to not shoot the bubble, or they just don't know how to play her. You can't keep energy in low elo because people can't have their targets, but at the same time, she doesn't get punished for it. If she's got full charge, it doesn't matter. Shoot it, it's whatever. The bubble's got 200 health. If you're better off to burst it down and just kill her and remove the high charge than you are to, wait and then have her still farm more.
Yeah, okay.
She just farmed like 30% of a grab right there from that, because she got out with energy. What is that guy doing?
I don't know, that was weird. They tried to do something.
Oh, Echo Stickies. This is going to be more relevant because they have one. This is another ability you have to eat, is the Stickies. They will kill your squishies 100%. She's damage boosted.
I usually try to. When I see an echo above me or something like that, I will have probably my defense matrix up a little bit too much, but yeah.
This is good. This is where you should be. Ideally, I'd be up here, but this is fine. You're going to force this on out of here, and you can spam this Junkrat. This is good. Nice eat. One thing too, if you are going to take a fight with an Ana like that, the better they are, the more they're not going to just panic sleep or panic nade immediately. I would hold your matrix for just a second, that way you can get the left click damage, and once she's about half health, then you can matrix and use your E to burst her down and finish the kill. If she's good, and she doesn't panic, and she doesn't use her nade right off cooldown, what's going to happen is you're going to commit on the Ana, right? you're going to get her down to about half health, and then she's going to nade herself or nade the floor or nade the wall next to her. So if she's good, she will hold that immediately. She's going to wait until she has to use it, and then you can eat it and confirm the kill. If she's not good, then she's just going to use it right at the very beginning of the fight, and she gets no value out of it, and you still win the fight because of that. So.
I think I heard something over to the left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the echo's in your back line. This is good. I would push her because she has no energy. She should die for that.
She used her personal bubble and I pushed her because
Yep.
I saw that
Good.
she had no health.
Yeah, without her, if she's straight up throwing, if she doesn't have bubble and she's out in the open like that.
He just stands there. He does not turn around this entire time.
And this is what I'm talking about. He doesn't have a choice. If you're up here on this high ground and you're off-angling him, he just has to get shot in the back. There's nothing he can do about it if you're standing right here and shooting him. Obviously, you're probably better off over here or over here, but it's that concept exactly what I was talking about. A target selection in that case, I'd be going for this Junkrat because he's going to go murder your backline or be looking for this Echo. But there are definitely the right ideas there.
Instead of the Ryan first, go for...
Yeah.
Bad engagement.
Because what's the Ryan gonna do? He's gonna stand there and get absolutely shit fucked. Like he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, I shouldn't have gone in that small room with the gun.
I don't know why there's not a Mega in that room. I know it's a spawn, but I'm surprised there's not a Mega in there. Or at least a mini.
I had the feeling there would be, but maybe I'm just thinking it was like a spawn room.
Yeah, it's the first point spawn.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm still in here.
I can't.
Hi, I had a nap.
This is good. I like that you remec'd inside.
All
Because
right,
if
this is
you...
the part-
Yeah.
Right here, I don't know what's going on with my team. So I bomb thinking that this is going to help when everybody's already been pushed back.
Okay. That just comes down to watching the kill feed. It's just an awareness thing. It's part of game sense. You'll get it with time, but yeah, just pay attention. I mean, like, they nanoed the Ryan, he got shatter, your team got their shit kicked in. Not much you can do about it. I'd reset because at this point you're feeding 600 health, but it's a good thought, just not the right time to do it.
Yeah, this is when I realized, oh shit, there's nobody here, and I get out.
Yeah, that's what you should be doing all the time, is just babysitting, watching for situations like this where you can turn around and use Matrix, because this is the first time I've seen you use Matrix defensively, like for a teammate.
Yeah.
Instead of using for yourself. You want to use your positioning to put yourself in a spot where you don't have to use your abilities for yourself, that way you can use them to help your teammates. Because you can't control what the enemy team does or control where your teammates stand, but you can control what you do.
Yeah.
She has grab again for sure. Did your Ryan just go in here and shatter?
Yes.
Where is
and
he?
I actually heard that on comms.
The fuck is he?
I don't know. Because it was in radio voice too, so it like wasn't in my line of sight.
Oh, he's literally right next to you. I'm blind. The fuck did he come from? Can you go back here and shatter?
I guess.
Okay.
But it caused me to be like, alright, we're taking this, I'm going in. Then it worked
I don't know
out.
how you didn't eat that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can teach you how to eat grabs. It's something you get with practice though. It's very, very important if you can learn how to do it, that you can do it on a consistent basis. Especially lower elo, they're going to be way more choreographed about it. Or telegraphed, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I did show him how to eat tracer bombs.
Yeah, just wait for the blink and then hold it on your own. Yeah, this is another thing too. I've been seeing you using your E a lot with not a whole lot of intent for it. And this is something that's really common with lower elo, is people just use cooldowns just to use them instead of using them for actual purpose. That's fine.
Yeah,
But
I mean, up to this point I thought of it as like a fire strike for Ryan. Use it to get extra health charge.
You can, but it's only in the poke phase. If you're going to be actually in a committed team fight, you want to be using it for your burst damage combo. You don't want to be burning that for you if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Why is there echo there?
Good question.
But yeah, this is a spot where I'd be either taking this position or be going up either on this corner or more by the truck. Their Lucio's up here and he shouldn't be alive. I gotta hide general chat. I don't know what I have it bound to.
at that point, and a lot of times like this where the carts, where the support's all at, I think to myself that I don't want to get too far from them. If I get too far from them, I become separated. If somebody pops up, I get fucked. So it keeps me from taking that initiative and taking that high ground right in front of us.
And here's the thing, okay? I get your line of thinking, but there's two reasons that it's wrong. If it's low elo, their DPS aren't probably good enough to get out there and 1v1 you if you play your cards right. If it's high elo, they're not going to be focusing on you because they're going to have a million other things to do. They'll be better, and they'll be able to win the 1v1 most likely, but they're going to have other pressure from outside sources. So, and this is what I mean about like when we're defaulting. This is what we call defaulting, right? Where we have one path right here, and we're in this path instead of being somewhere else. If we're just going to stand here and cart bot with our Ryan and AFK on cart for the next 25 meters, we're not getting anything accomplished. We're just standing here and taking damage and feeding damage back and forth to the enemy. Whereas if we're up here or somewhere else, or the backline are pressuring this Junkrat out, you're getting way more value out of that than just by existing on the cart.
Yeah.
Like I said, all about space control. She should die for this.
She does. I mean,
Yeah, commit on that. That's good. Yeah, it's the same concept. We're not getting a lot done by doing it like that. But I mean, you recognize that now.
Gotta be honest, at this point, I thought we had won it, so I was just AFKing on the teleporter for a second before I realized, oh shit, there's still people here.
And here's the thing too, you see their Ana up here. At least you saw her when she was running over here. This is a really easy push for you.
Just dropped it.
Yeah, our target priority is not in the right spot here. Two things with this too that I've seen. When using your D.Va bomb, you got a couple options, right? You can go for the opening play, which is probably not going to get a lot of value, especially as you get higher up. Or it's usually a get out of jail free or like a remake. If you want a hard commit on their Ana up there, and you're low HP or something, you hard commit on her and you still confirm the kill, and you have to eject and you have to use your ult to get a remake out of that, that's more value than just chucking it and not killing anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to use that to just go int, because D.Va's feed's so hard, but
yeah,
there are better uses for a lot of abilities, yeah. I think you just can't touch and lose, yeah.
I think I even get booped back, so.
And honestly, this wouldn't have made very much of a difference because she didn't do a whole lot, but if this Ana had been pushed down or one of their DPS had died or something where we're in a better position, then that fight may have gone differently as opposed to just getting respawns and them winning.
Yeah.
When you guys finish your review, do you guys want to play?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to hop off after, but yeah. No.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to hop off after, but no, absolutely not. Fuck you.
Any questions before I...
The answer is no. You have to go somewhere.
Yeah, I have to go somewhere after this, but...
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Any specific questions? Anything you want me to look at before I go the next round?
No, this one's also kind of a disaster. They had a Bastion and this elo, which is... In this elo, it's not common.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're communicating at this point. We didn't really come up with a plan for. You'll see.
So again here, 1, 2, and this is technically 3, but this could also be 3. These go to the same place essentially.
Yeah.
This route is probably never going to get used. This is the default. This is where they're going to go down main. This is the route that you should be controlling right here.
Okay. Right now, I'm trying to
farm
get early ult charge and get information.
Yeah. I'm hoping you go over here.
I do move back. I don't know if I move to the right, but I definitely move back.
The fact that your BAP is here really concerns me, but it's whatever. It's out of your control.
Yep.
What I want to see is if you take this position right here, then you cut off this flank where they can't push through. If your Junkrat gets pushed, you can Matrix him. He can walk back into cave. He can walk back into safety. If your BAP starts getting pushed or whatever, or they have a Widow, which they do in this case, she's going to sit probably around this area. You can monitor that, watch, and turn around and look at your supports. There's a really important thing with LOSing damage, especially when against like a long-range hit scan like this. Basically, you don't ever want to be longer than 2 to 4 seconds away from cover. D.Va's got more leeway because she has boosters and because her Matrix lasts for about 3 seconds. But you'll see more with like Zarya and stuff like that. If you're in this position right here and you're standing here, okay, and you get shot and you're at 150 HP, if you don't have your boosters or you don't have your Matrix, you're dead. Whereas if you're here and you take that much damage, you just go around here and you can't get shot anymore. Like natural cover and LOSing damage is super important. It's something that I haven't seen anyone in this game doing it so far. I'll put it that way. They're all just standing in the open. They're just W and mouse wanting on the enemy. If you live, you win the game more times than not. Especially with a hero like D.Va or with Zarya. When you're close range, high damage, high potential for either picking off an enemy or saving your teammates, the longer you live, the more value you give to your team. But yeah, you should be in this general area. And also, if they're pushing around the corner, you can still pretty much sit here for free if the DPS don't push you. So you can spam down on their Ryan when he's standing down here, just shield botting on cart. If their Widow tries to grapple up here, she no longer has this access point. This flank is the only one left open.
What?
This is no longer your
Get
responsibility.
your snack.
Okay.
You had your
So-
treat.
Where
want?
are you at?
I want a Snickers. Oh, I forgot it was me. He was like, I want a snack. It's like, you had 2 pieces of pizza and a fucking bag of chips. What do you want? What?
Yeah, so you did the same thing where you had the right idea, but then you dropped down. Also, you just looked right at that Widow in the face and then left your sim up there. So, that's a thing. I'm not going to flame you for that, but like...
No,
Flame.
I deserve it.
In this situation right here too, this is like this is a micro thing, but this Junkrat, when he's sleeping on the ground right there, just stand on top of him. The best thing you can do is body block that damage, because you can't eat this beam, and with how close they are, Matrixing is not going to do a whole lot, especially if the Ryan comes up and swings on him. You should just be standing here, turn your head hitbox down on the ground, and try to cover him as much as you can. Still Matrix him into the ground, but that's super, super important for D.Va and for Zarya both. Also, they're Ana flanking on coast. They're on his flanking coast. Cool. And same deal, this is just like the first one we had on first point earlier, where we didn't take this position, and now they're DPS and they're Zarya up there.
She also drops. Yeah, it's a common problem in Yellow. I noticed the Widow's behind me. I
Yep.
kill her instantly.
Good turn for it. You'll get there with mechanics. You'll be able to burst her like first try eventually.
Yeah.
That's definitely the right intention though. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like really good ideas. They're just either poorly executed or we try it and then go back to defaulting down mid. Because if we sit here and run it down mid all day long, you're gonna get pushed by that Zarya and I'm gonna lose. Like I said, at some point there's only so much you can do when you are playing default, and you literally can't do more or can't carry more than you already are. Even if you had aimbot and you're standing here and choke, you're not going to win the fight.
Yeah.
Matrix that res too, 100% of the time if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen maybe twice that I could think of where you've been using Matrix defensively or actually peel for a teammate. Reses are super important. Support's getting dove, especially if you have like an Ana or Zen with no mobility, or low HP, either your main tank or one of your DPS at our opposition.
I haven't thought of D.Va as defensive. I've thought of her as disruptive. So it's more when I see those opportunities, I go, "Oh, I could do something there." It's less of a default mindset.
And that's what you do. You are a disruptor. That's your entire job. But you do it by either protecting your teammates and disrupting the enemy DPS, or you do it by disrupting their backline and just fucking murdering them.
So right here.
Oh
I
god.
will qualify. I will qualify.
Okay,
What
listen.
happened
I'm
there
not gonna
was
blame you for that.
I heard the Bastion ult behind to the right. I thought he was on the second floor, so I was going to hide low tunnel. And that didn't work.
You got absolutely blown up.
Here, I'm calming. I'm saying, I'm trying to get everybody to group up a little bit more, seeing if they can get there, seeing if they can hold. Just doesn't happen.
Good intent. You should definitely have them go down low tunnel if you can, because you can go behind the sign and have cover there. But in this situation, it's your job to touch cart, because you can go and you have more HP and you've got the Matrix. If you
I
were
just
going
didn't
to
know if
take
it'd be
this
worth it,
fight,
or I didn't know if it was gonna be worth it or if it was just gonna be feeding.
at this point, since you don't have your Ana and you're down a DPS, I wouldn't take it. But if you had one more person, or if the enemy team was down one, I would go into it, because worst case scenario, you can't feed more than you've already lost the point, right?
Yeah.
If you force an ult out of the enemy team or something, then you might take the next fight and win that way. But oh god, your Ryan's in.
Yeah. And that was me going, oh, I should support, and I just changed my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad.
Then he tired, and we're like, okay. And he's like, I don't know why I did that, but you know, we all just had a nice laugh.
So this is something that I see a lot of times with, especially like below diamond players, is they really struggle to make a decision, and then when they do make a decision, it's too late.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, if you're doing like actively practicing and thinking about what you're doing when you're out like playing a game, if you're playing quick play and you're actively thinking about, I need to improve my matrices on my Ana, for example, in the entire game you spend consciously making an effort to do that, and you do that for hours and hours and hours until it becomes reflexive. It's no longer something you have to think about, it's just an instinct. Once
It's
you
also
have
the same way you learn new characters.
exactly.
Yeah.
Once you have that down, you no longer have to think about these things. It doesn't lose you time in game, because time is like the most important resource that you have, typically, besides your health and your space. A lot of the times, if you can practice something and you know that you're probably going to make the right decision, just go with your gut. Worst case scenario, it's the wrong decision, and you know that for the next time. But
Yeah.
indecision will lose you games, 100%.
I told him this while he was playing Moira too.
Yeah.
I'm much worse about
what
it
is happening?
We got that tire, and we're just like, all right, we might as well for like a half second, and then we pull back.
This is good to pressure her off, but you're peeking a Bastion. I don't know why she's here in the first place. She shouldn't be.
No, I don't stay here.
You're better off here, or you can sit right here and kind of spam this choke, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I see specifically with like Ryan players, is they just don't know what to do, and they're just very clearly lost in the middle of nowhere.
Definitely worse about that on support, because I'm overthinking a lot more.
At this point,
I
you
tried to
just
chase the fire strike there.
yeah, I saw you look over and your teammates are all here and your Ryan's still respawning, and you definitely die for this, but this is why.
They're saying, "Oh, you're cut off," and
Mhm.
I already was planning on remeching anyways, so I used this opportunity to bomb.
That's why I would go over here, because you've got the Mega if you need to. You can get out and go around behind the natural cover here and then regroup with your Rhine, as opposed to just standing in the open. Or you can even go into like the saloon area here, but you're probably going to get pushed if you go that route. Please don't bomb this.
I'm remeching. It's completely different. He just walks by
The
me.
fact that you lived that,
Yeah, I don't know.
so remember I was talking about earlier about how tanking can be really hard to tell when you're doing the right thing, because they have the most impact but it feels the least impactful. Situations like that where you know that you shouldn't do that but you still do it anyway, and if you get away with it, then you're gonna build that habit, because these players won't punish you. But if you start climbing and then suddenly you're getting punished for the bad habits that you have, you're gonna start losing games because of that.
Oh, you're here.
So just real quick, go ahead and pause it.
Yeah.
So like 10 seconds ago, I'm on the other side. I'm separated from my support. I'm gonna die, right? There's nothing.
You're fucked here, 100%.
So just the fact that I lived was just an error in the simulation.
It's because their DPS aren't good enough to kill you.
Yeah.
That's honestly why. Because that's why they're in gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't have lived there. Honestly, it would have been better for you to just have gone onto cart and forced the death, or to jump off the map and reset, because your Rhine was still coming back from spawn, than to either bomb, get nothing, and then feed your whole mech, or feed the whole mech and die anyway. They boost you'd.
Not right now, Bubby. Maybe.
Just go up top.
I do in a sec.
Oh my god, it's so good. Holy shit.
So, what do you ult track at all? Have you like got to that point where you can do
Yes.
that mentally? Okay,
We've gotten better about it. It's not perfect, but
you'll
I
get
don't think I
there.
was thinking about all. I don't think I was thinking about it this game. I think about it a lot when we're doing team games.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go too hard on that 'cause it's something you'll just develop with time. But especially as you play more tanks, you'll get a feel for when they have ult.
Alright, that's all I got. Thanks.
Generally
So
speaking,
good.
you can pretty much assume that every other fight they're gonna have it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. There are exceptions, like if Zarya has no energy, she probably doesn't have grav, or beat takes forever to charge, shit like that. You'll learn over time, especially you need to do your tank matchups first. There's only so much space in your brain right now, and that's the difference between like you and me versus a pro player. They just have more capacity for information, and that's making them make their correct decision more often, like we were talking about earlier. So with tanks, what I would do is just start learning your other tank matchups, and just try to predict when they have their ults. And as you start getting that, and you're more comfortable, that becomes automatic, and you can add more stuff into that. So, like, I know for a fact right now they have Shatter, they have Grav, they are probably close to Nano, and they have Visor. Which, if we look, they have
Right
3 of
on
those, they don't have
those.
Nano. I think they nanoed last fight, but I didn't pay attention.
Because he plays the game often enough
Who's
to
Dio?
know.
Yeah. So,
Gonna know.
especially
There are
when
some of them that I know.
especially when you have a
God,
situation like this Zarya versus D.Va, right? Because your job is to eat the Grav. If you don't eat the Grav here, you lose the fight. If you don't know if she has it or not, and you hold your entire matrix on her face, and she doesn't have it, they can get anything else off. They can Soldier Visor, they can spam Junkrat into your team, and you die for that. So that goes into your decision making, is keeping track of enemy cooldowns and abilities, and ultimates. Zarya's a pretty easy one. If she's glowing all the time, she probably has Grav pretty much every fight. Especially if you see her, if she's farming your entire mech, that's like 40 Grav charge, if she's high energy. Or if she's right-clicking into your team a lot, that's a huge amount. Same with Ryan. If he gets a couple good swings on you, he's probably got Shatter. He's really close to it. If he gets nanoed, he gets like 3 swings in there, he's got Shatter again.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go too hard on this, but like with if you are trying to learn like ult economy and learn ult tracking, start with your enemy tanks. Start with actually just your tank matchup, either the off tank or the main tank. And once you get the capacity for that where it's automatic, then start expanding. But your most important ones to track are the tanks. Generally speaking.
We have to know.
That sounds like way too much work. I just shoot.
But if you want to get on an extreme level,
Yeah.
where you can kick all their asses at any given time, this is solid advice.
And that's what I mean about like that's what separates like good players from great players, is literally they just think more. Every decision that they make, even if it's autopiloted, is the correct one. I can go on autopilot in a game and do pretty well, but there's a lot of things you have to mentally track and be paying attention to. Go ahead.
Right there, I was thinking about. I know there's a strat where you can go back to the spawn room, change to another hero, change it back. You lose all charge, but you get your mech back.
Yeah.
But I second guessed and thought, I think I have like
You had ult
Yeah.
charge.
60 ult charge.
Honestly, in this case, you're going to build it fast enough in the poke phase, it doesn't matter. If you were in like a team fight or something, it might be worth resetting, but
Yeah.
their Ryan is full on inting, he should die for this. He does not die for it.
No, I was calling it out too. I was like, burn the right, burn the right. I'm really upset. that he
It's
lived.
really overextended, yeah. Yeah, you had
Right side.
68, 69% ult charge already.
If
That took a long time.
I'm gonna be honest, this is not your fault that you lost this team fight. The other one, the last one, we made some mistakes, but this one's not your fault.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying, like, shit like this is out of your control. So if you can fix the other things that you can control, like your positioning, not being in the right place at the right time, peeling for your teammates, you're gonna get situations like this where you can't do anything about it are no longer as relevant.
Damn.
I mean, this is a team game.
Exactly.
You can, like, carry so much.
You can only do
Dale
so
said,
much,
"Let's bring out the
but
receipts."
because off tank is so team dependent and so peel heavy and so such an enabling role, right? You may only have your 1 out of the 6, but if you can enable 2 of your teammates at the same time, you've effectively got another teammate. Like you're gonna do 3 out of 6 things instead of 1 out of 6 things. And that's what you do. You either protect, you peel for them, or you enable your teammates to do whatever they can. You're
I
Ryan.
think if
Good.
I think if we did anything about that Ryan right there, when he was feeding,
Oh yeah,
this would have gone extremely differently.
yeah. And I mean,
Shattered, he got nanoed.
back to the high ground thing, I'm not saying this would have done anything because he's... Honestly, they pushed really quick and you couldn't get your mech back. But in the situation where we were over on the Mega by the semi here... Where were you? You were up here. And then we went with Bastion, and then we dropped down. That soldier takes the high ground here, he starts shooting your Lucio in the back, and then Ryan walks forward through choke and they win. This is like the 5th time I've seen this, I like that you're taking the high ground, you're in the spot where you should be. We're just not committing to it. And also...
I just always feel like I should be moving, and then sometimes it's like, intentionally or unintentionally, I'll fall something.
Yeah.
Just like, I gotta keep moving,
There's situations like this matchup right here. Oh, shit. You should, if you're not confirming a kill, you should not be in melee range in front of a Reinhardt. That's not your job to deal with it. That's your Ryan's job and your support's job to keep your Ryan alive. Your job is to be over here harassing him or to be over here shooting his squishies in the back.
I mean, he comes back, he shatters.
He gets shattered, the soldier just pops off and shoots your people in the back and you're dead. Also, I would have been holding Matrix right there in the middle because people are getting fucked and you know for a fact they're going to try and grab that. Or at least throw some stuff into it. Helix is a really important one too.
I have trouble predicting Zarya.
Yeah. Well, you'll get it with time. And honestly, that's the thing, right? So you'll see situations where it's called priming. So a lot of the times we're not predicting it. You'll see, like for example, like when I'm playing Zarya, and when we're against the Reinhardt, I'll call for more healing and stand in front of him and not use my abilities at all because I'm gonna bubble and block the shatter. I do that all the time. Okay, it's not because I have the reaction time for it, because frankly there's too much shit going on to be paying attention to. But I've been in that situation 1,000 times. I know what he's gonna do, and I can usually predict it to a reasonable amount. If you start, same with the Zarya. If you're trying to eat a grab, right? You go and you pressure her, because if you pressure her to low health and she has no option to win the fight then besides to grav, then you hold your Matrix her for the last 3 seconds, use your E and burst her down, and she either dies with grav, which is great because you take her energy out and win the fight, or she grabs anyway, you eat the grav, and then you win the fight because you ate the grav. It's shit like that where you'll learn it over time. It's part of game sense, but you can't get it without playing more. Like, you have to just be there, you have to fuck up, you have to make the mistakes in order to know what to do the next time. And like I say, basically, here's what it comes down to, right? Better players just make less mistakes. They don't make no mistakes, but they make a lot less of them. There's easy shit that you can fix, like where you're standing, where you're positioned, the fact that you're not turning. I've never seen you turn around besides the 2 times when you looked at your Ana at one point to Matrix or to pay attention or try to protect them. Shit like that you can control really, really easily. There's things in this game that are completely outside of your control that you can't fix, but those are 2 big ones. Those are what I think you should actually be paying attention to, is positioning, like being in the wrong spot, and then just paying more attention to what happens in your team. Yeah. So, real quick, let me show you something.
Alright.
Let me go to...
Let me use the bathroom while we're waiting for
Actually, this is the right one I want to be on.
Sounds good. Good. Yep.
Fuck, what's the setting that I want for this? I don't do custom games ever. Okay. Let's go here. A10 talks about this a lot, which, actually, I would definitely check him out. If you want to get good at D.Va, watch players like, Fury, Poco, Meko, Choi's really good too.
Yeah.
Like, their decision making, especially if you do watch a lot of Owl, pay attention to how they use their Matrix specifically, because it's so important. Their decision making, and it's not always going to be perfect. Like I said, Choi basically threw the Shox Grand Finals game by not eating the barrage. But that's not his fault necessarily. It's because he did what he could with the information that he had. And that's something that I forgot to talk about this earlier. I'm going to get onto it before I get into this. Making decisions based on information is something that people don't do until like 3,300 up, right? Especially with like reactive cooldowns like Bubble or like Matrix or like Hog's E. People will just use cooldowns. They don't think about what they're doing. They just press buttons in the general direction of the enemy. If you're 1v1ing a McCree as D.Va, you should be tracking if he has his flash or not. If you see him use it, then you know it's going to be 6-7 seconds before he has it again. If you haven't seen it, then when you go to take that fight, the first thing you do is pay attention and try to flash the matrix so you can eat the flashbang. You have to make the decisions on what you do based on the information available to you. If you're standing here in mid-choke and you see that the enemy has a certain team comp or they got a bastion or whatnot, that should determine where you sit, what you do, how you take every single situation, how you take every fight. And it's something that I didn't see a whole lot of. There were situations where you're reacting to information, but you're not proactively getting it and then trying to make the right call. Does that make sense? That's kind of a weird concept to teach.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. This is a really important thing, and A10 talks about this map specifically all the time, so I'm going to show it off here. As far as like lane control goes, right? Let's see if I can keep myself up here. Stay. Okay, I cannot. So, this is your Junkertown first point.
Is that a question?
There we go. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was asking about a question. I actually have to go really quickly here.
Yeah.
But I would love to come back to this later.
Yeah. Do you want me to just run through this and record it and drop it off in Shadowplay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cool. Yeah, if you have any specific questions, let me know. We can go back to it later.
Alright, thanks so much, Fatal.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
Let me teach y'all nerds something really cool, okay? It's called lane control. So this is what was called map control, or some people call it lane control. This is a really important concept with Overwatch specifically, especially because of how flat the maps are. If you ever played COD, you know that most maps have 3 lanes. I'm not sure how many of you were like into that scene, but it is a thing. So in situations like this, when you're playing a tank, your entire job is to take space and control space. You either control it, you create it, or you deny it. One of those 3. That's how you enable your teammates, that's how you get the right positions, it's where you need to be. Junkertown's a really good example of how lane control works, right? So you have your default, which is, in this case, main. This is where, if you're not doing anything specific, this is where you're going to be, because people default to this route. If you just shut your brain off and play the game, you will end up in this path. It's the path of least resistance, where everybody's going to stand. If you're playing an off-tank, what you want to do is take control of one of these lanes. So you have 3 here. You have this one, which is main. You have this flank route, which goes around, goes to the staircase, and goes back here to this mini over here, way in the back. And you have this route over here, which goes to the mega room. It goes up top over these stairs, and it goes back to the mega room down in this area. What you do as an off-tank is, if I'm playing Zarya on this, my Ryan's going to be posted up somewhere around here, probably, holding this corner when this enemy team pushes on him, or once we're in this phase of the map. So once we're past this first choke, and we're holding this phase right here, I'm playing right here, because I now have lane control over this lane. Most maps have 3. Anubis, for example, you have the main path down the choke where you always get your shit kicked in. You've got the left path that goes into the dark, and you have the right path that goes down toward the sloped mega, but also toward the enemy spawn. You can control basically 2 of these at one time. Your main tank is going to be holding this position. There's not a whole lot you can do to make that better other than do what your job is. If I'm playing Zarya, my job is to bubble him, get him the damage reduction, get the charge, and that's it. That's all I have to do. At that point, I'm free to just fuck off and do my own job, which is controlling this lane. If I have this over here, we now have this lane isolated, and we have this lane isolated, which means that we now have 66% of the map covered instead of 33% if we're just standing in double choke. If I hold this, we can't get flanked by the enemy team. Their Tracer can't come around here, their Genji can't come around here, the Doom can't go up on the roof, do the rollout, and kill my Ana back here standing by Mega. DPS do the exact same thing, but in a little bit different format. Basically what you want to do is eliminate one of these 3 paths if possible. We were just showing it in Route 66 earlier. When you go through first point on 66, you have the dark tunnel, which is where the Mega is. That's your first flank route. You have the coast mini route, which also goes to the back mega room under gas station, and you have main choke. If you're an off tank, you want to be in that top, I think we talked about that earlier. Basically, when it comes down to lane control, what you can do, the most you can possibly do is just control this route. You can't make your Ryan be better, you can't make your supports heal more, you can't make your DPS click heads. What you can do is control this space and give your team a better chance to win, just because of the fact that you exist in the right place at the right time. Like, tanking is literally all about just being in the right space at the right time. It doesn't matter if you do your job correctly, it doesn't matter if you have good mechanics, it doesn't matter if you can predict enemy ults. As long as you are controlling this area and they cannot go through here, you have automatically gained value, because their only option is either go through main choke and get absolutely fucked, or they can go through coast here and not get a whole lot of value out of it. This is not your job to control. This is your job. This is what you can control. This is what you should hold. Basically, it's just avoiding defaulting and just standing here in main choke and W and mouse 1ing at the enemy team until you run out of resources, until you die, and until you lose the game. That is pretty much all I got. I'm sorry for taking up your time. I'm going to go ahead and record this and send it out to Jason, but yeah. Any questions?